So just to give you an overview of FAU kind of in general, but specific to our social work program as well, is that we're right now on our Boca campus, which is our main campus. I will say that the majority of our classes do take place here, but we utilize 2 other campuses that are satellite campuses. We use our Jupiter campus that's about 40 minutes north of here. A lot of our students who come from Indian River or Martin County, St. Lucie County, even Northern Palm Beach, use that campus a lot of times to take some of their classes. Then we also have our Davie campus, which is about 30 to 40 minutes south of here, depending on traffic. And actually, I know at least 2 of the ladies here oftentimes take class. Joseph, do you normally take your classes here at Boca, or have you used the other campuses?
I typically take classes here in Boca, but I have taken a class at Davie.
Okay. So we have individuals who take classes at our different campuses. So again, our Davie campus, a lot of times individuals who are working in Broward or Miami-Dade or even all the way down to Monroe County can utilize that campus as well. I will tell you that Boca Raton always has the most number of sections, and you can complete your entire your bachelor's degree here on the Boca campus. The same thing is also true for our Davie campus, where in combination with the classes that are offered there and online classes, you can complete your entire bachelor's degree on the Davie campus within a 2-year time frame as well. So I'd just like to mention that because I think that's very convenient for some of our students who may live here locally, but might have a little bit more convenience with one of the campuses or another. So one of the things that I think is helpful for us to cover are what are the classes that you would be taking as a social work major. So when you think about social work, we are really in a field where we're there to help people who are going through difficult times. You're going to be working with people who are going through different forms of crises, or maybe they have something that's ongoing that they just need extra resources and need extra help. So our program is designed to help people in those different areas, but you may work with people in a couple of different ways. So our overview of our program really reflects that and the different ways that you might be able to work with people. The first class that everyone has to take is our introduction to the field of social work, or it's called Professions of Social Work. That's also a Gordon Rule class. If you don't know what that means, that is a writing class. So that's one of the requirements that you have at a university level. For our social work students, that can count as one of their requirements. It's also a writing course because that's a very important part of social work, is being able to document what you're doing. We have this saying that if you didn't document it, didn't happen. So we really start that in our first class of emphasizing to our students how important it is to write professionally and comprehensively. You also have another class that's called Social Work Policy. So as social workers, not only do we work with people directly, we also understand how laws and rules and regulations impact our clients. So that is a class focused on understanding how different laws and statutes impact our clients, but our students also get an opportunity to reflect on how maybe they can impact the laws and statutes that are currently in place. I'll show you a slide in just a second where our students have actually gone to Tallahassee and advocated for different bills to be passed, sat down with legislatures. Not only do they go out to Tallahassee, but they've also had an impact locally when it comes to that as well. And again, that's a big focus of that class. The next couple of classes really focus on what is our mindset when it comes to working with clients. So we understand that we're going to be working with people from young, like the babies, like Dana's very much interested in, young children, all the way up to older adults. And we understand that understanding the experiences across the lifespan are really, really important. So we have a class on development and what it's like to work with someone when they're a young child versus working with someone when maybe they are a young adult, transitioning into adulthood versus the experiences of our older adults. We also have a class that focuses on our person and environment. So not just who you are as an individual, but how your environment, how your community impacts you. And so that's one of our classes. So that's what we refer to as HIPSI 1 and HIPSI 2 classes, human behavior and the social environment classes. Now we're getting into the different classes of where you focus on working with people. As I mentioned before, you have different ways of working with people. So we have classes, I'm sitting down with people one-on-one, individually, and meeting with them. We have classes focused on doing group work, so support groups, different forms of group work that you might be doing with them. Working with families, because a lot of times you're not just working with an individual, but you're also working with their family as well. Working with organizations and communities. So it might not be that you're sitting down having a one-on-one meeting, but maybe you're going and doing outreach in a community. Again, I'll show you a couple of slides in just a second that show pictures of our students out doing a community garden. So that way there's different resources that are right there locally that the community can access. Or working at a food pantry, or finding other needs that are in a community that, again, aren't just working with people one-on-one. You can see how in social work, we impact people on different levels. That's a big focus of what we do and how we train our students to do that as well. And then finally, the most important thing is that when we're doing all these different things with individuals, groups, families, or communities, we want to know that it's being effective. And so one of the things that we think is important for our students to understand is how to evaluate that. So we do have a research methods class that most of our students take at the end of their program. Sometimes there's a different arrangement for these, but this is generally the flow that you would see with those classes. Now, I told you the overview as a coordinator and as someone who teaches some of these classes, but I think this is a helpful time to check in with my students to get their feedback on how you've seen these classes helping you, or anything else that you have in regards to the classes.
I think in social work in particular, when you think of a general ed class, you think of 100 kids in a class, which is what you guys will experience in your first 2 years here. You're not going to get to the BSW curriculum until the next 2 years after you finish your general ed classes, math, science, all that stuff. Where you're going to see classes with hundreds and 200 kids in a class, where in this program you're only going to see about 25 kids in the class, which is where you can really gain that relationship with the professor and your other classmates. And I feel like it's a better learning experience for you guys because you can really focus on in the class with a less amount of kids.
Absolutely, and that's actually part of our accreditation. So we're accredited by the Council on Social Work Education, which is the national accrediting body for programs of social work. So the great thing about that is it does limit the number of students that can be in classes. Again, to what Dana was speaking about, we want to make sure that you're having a quality education.
Right.
Well, there are some classes where you can have class sizes of 100, 200, and maybe you can learn well in those classes. But especially with these classes that have practice in the front of that, we are doing role plays. We are going out into the community. You are having stuff that is related to exactly what you're going to be doing when you get into the field. We can't do that with 100 students. You can do it when you have class sizes of 25 or less. So that's the cap on those classes. Even our classes that are not practice classes, we have a cap of 40 students in these classes as well. Because again, while you might not be doing role plays, we still believe in a learning environment that's most conducive. And again, that's a requirement of us being an accredited program. Go ahead, Dave.
And usually since you take the classes in this order, you will have the same people in your class like every other semester. So you gain relationships with those people, you gain connections with those people, you gain connections with your professors. The professors here are amazing. I've gained connections with them that I can even describe. Like, you can use them as resources even when you're done graduating. Like, they want to be there for you. They want to help you succeed. And that's one of my favorite parts about being an FAU student is the professors in the social work program.
Yeah, just to echo that, I feel like this field is particularly challenging if you don't have a sense of support that can uplift you in difficult times. And so that cohort model is really helpful in establishing that basis for interacting with others and figuring out solutions collaboratively. The other thing I'd say is that this arc, to me, it really speaks to something particularly wonderful about social work as a discipline and this program particularly, which is that relative to other helping professions or subjects like psychology or mental health counseling, social work sees individual challenges as products of environmental systems and family systems. And so challenges and interventions that can help lie in the community and at the individual level and in groups. And so these courses help you see how those levels intersect and how you might be able to change someone's life accordingly. And for me, that was really powerful because that's why I was interested in this major in the first place. Sense of wanting to be able to help and not being quite sure how to do that effectively.
And Joseph actually brings up a really great point that I know is something that we talked about previously, is that you guys are honestly steps ahead of where we were when it came to choosing a major, because a lot of us didn't end up in social work initially. A lot of us have taken a different path and realized, you know, social work is really how I want to be able to help people. As Joseph was mentioning, really our focus in social work is understanding how the environment, how the experiences that we've had separate from just us really impact who we are. So when we as a profession are working with people, we're always thinking about these sort of things, and that is the thing that kind of distinguishes us from other programs. Not to knock any other programs. I was a psych major and I'm still very much connected to that community. I'm also a marriage and family therapist as well. Specifically have a degree in marriage and family therapy in addition to my master's in social work. But that's just kind of our niche in the community, is that we don't just focus on the individual. We are understanding people on different levels, specifically how that larger environment is impacting them. That's why we have the policy classes. That's why we have these human behavior and the social environment classes. That's really kind of what distinguishes us from other helping professions. But again, I always say that any helping profession is a wonderful profession to be in, but that's kind of what makes us different from the other helping professions. Do you all have anything else that you want to add in regards to classes or anything? Okay. So these are our core classes, but in addition to that, you also have a variety of electives to choose from. So as Dana was mentioning, Dana was you that talked about the first 2 years, right? So you have your first 2 years, which is generally about 60 credits. That's the math and English and history classes, all those fun classes. And then you get to your second 2 years where you are doing your social work classes. Now, keep in mind that it's 39 credits that are specific social work classes. But you have to have 60 credits to graduate from the second half of your program. So those other 12 credits it is roughly, I think, 21 credits actually, I'm sorry, you will be taking electives. These are some of the electives that you can take. Again, depending on what you want to specialize in. You can take classes on family violence, doing counseling with women, evidence-based diversity practice, classes on spirituality, specifically working in child welfare, international social work. We actually have a week-long class that's going to be taking place over the summer where our students are going to be traveling to Ireland to have a hands-on experience of actually working in another country. So that's a really wonderful opportunity they get to have. Working with vulnerable children and families, human trafficking, which is a big thing, especially down here in South Florida. Substance abuse, again, another big area that we see a lot of our students end up going into. So that's an elective that we offer at that level. Also, working with the older population specifically. I can tell you right now, students are registering, and this is one of our most popular classes this semester. I'm having students constantly asking me if they can be added in to that class, because that's an area that we really do specialize in here. And then another popular class is our positive and well-being class, which is focused on not just the negative experiences that we have, but how can we really focus on the positive parts of our lives. Some of you might have heard of a practice called mindfulness that has really caught on recently. That's kind of what that class focuses on, is positive well-being and mindfulness, being present in the moment and appreciating the different things that you're going through. Now, I realized that I skipped over one thing on going through all of these different things, is that what is really important about our program that I kind of alluded to are these practical hands-on experiences that you have in your classes, and ultimately culminates with your final semester of what Dana and Joseph are going to be going into in the summer and what Erica is going to be doing in the fall, and that is a full-time internship. What's great about our program is that when you graduate, you already have 400 hours working at an agency. But not only do you have those 400 hours of a full-time internship during your last semester, you have different experiences in those other classes. So like I mentioned, the different practice classes that we have, you're going to be having interactions with children at child development centers. You might be going for your policy day, policy class, you might be going up to Tallahassee, standing on the steps of the Capitol because you just finished advocating with others. You're going to be going to assisted living facility and sitting down with individuals who are living there. You could be going and building a community garden like these individuals are doing right here. This is a group of our students who also went to Tallahassee, sitting in the Supreme Court of Tallahassee, of our state capitol. These are actually students of mine that we had people come in and do a sexual abuse training with them. So again, not only are we going out into the community, but we're also having people come in to our facility as well. This is one of the things that I've heard have been extremely helpful for our students, so they don't feel like once they graduate, they don't have any experience. Like they had lots and lots of experiences in the classroom, but especially in that final internship. Go ahead, Erica.
And also in our practice classes, we do a lot of role plays. We do group facilitations like we're doing right now. You actually get to be a group facilitator and do a support group, or you get to be the member in the group and experience it from that aspect as well. So we do a lot of role plays, we do a lot of group work, and then, like she said, with the community, you can go to Lead Day, which I think is next week, where they go to Tallahassee. And yeah, it's just really awesome.
I think that's like the main thing that differs us from other programs is that you don't get to see all these hands-on experiences in other programs, and I want to knock it as well, but you just are reading it from a book. And that's something that we really differ in, is that we actually get those hands-on experiences in the classroom and outside the classroom, which I feel like you don't get. Because I was a psych major and I didn't get any of this, and that's why I switched to social work.
Great experiences for different people. Again, psych major, so I appreciated that as well. But another big push for us is not just going out into these different places so we can learn, but really we are very much involved in the community and giving back to our community. So like I said, that one picture that you saw of them making a community garden, yes, that was for a class, but that was something that was lasting in that community. We have different things that are going on. This is one of our professors, Dr. Osei, who she was helping do a walkathon with her class outside of class time, so very much committed to that. Again, this is a group of my students who are at a child development center here at FAU, who are there to just have fun with the kids and be able to give some time to them. This is one of our students who graduated, who he helped to create a declaration in the city of Wilton Manors related to domestic violence. And so he had that impact after going through our different programs, specifically in the policy class, of realizing he can have an impact. A lot of times our students in that policy class have letters to the editor that are published in the local newspaper. So again, our students are able to be involved in the community. This is actually an event from the same students at that Child Development Center. One of our graduates, and is also one of our current adjuncts, runs that program here on our campus. So we have a social worker who's running the Child Development Center here on FAU's campus, and she brings the children 0 to 5 onto campus to advocate. So the same skills that we're learning, we're passing it on to the next generation and being able to have an impact in our community. So again, not just what they can give to us by going out into the community and building our skill set, but really what we can be doing for them as well. Again, something that I'm very proud of, being a social worker and being part of this program. Now, just to shift really quickly, I think it's really important that we talk about what resources we give to our students. As some of our students have already mentioned, we are very invested in our students. I always tell students when I go and meet with them, because I come to several of those different classes and talk to our students, I always tell them, it is my goal to have each and every one of you graduate, be successful, and go out and make an impact in the world. So when we have students come into our program, we like them to leave with a degree. We don't want you to leave and change a major. We don't want you to not pass your classes. Sometimes that happens. Like, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it does happen, but we don't want that to happen. So we really try and think of what are the different resources that our students need to be successful. One of the things that we identified as a barrier for some of our students is being able to afford textbooks. So one of the resources that we have, we're able to get extra textbooks either donated from previous students, or sometimes we have a professor who's not teaching a class anymore and they have an extra book and they get donated to the school. Well, we recycle that and allow students to borrow up to 2 textbooks per semester from us if we have it available. So again, something that we offer as a resource to our students, because we had students that say, you know, I'm already paying tuition, I can't really, you know, afford $300, $400, $500 in books. We might not be able to give them all of their books, but if you have 2 books that cost $100 each or $150, that's a big chunk of money each and every semester. Again, if we have the resources available, we try and pass that on to our students. As the students were mentioning, very proactive instructors and coordinator to support student success. If we see students that are struggling in a class, if they're not showing up for class, if they're having difficulty with the role plays, if they're not turning in assignments, we don't just let our students fail out. A lot of times what will happen is if those instructors realize that's going on, they'll contact me. I'll reach out to the student and say, okay, well, what's going on? What's the barrier here? You having a rough semester or different things going on? What is happening? Because we need to make a plan. We need to figure out how you can be successful, because we recognize things happen. We realize that you're not just a student sitting in a class, but you're a person. And so we're very proactive about that, about supporting our students, because we do not want to see any of our students fail. If we can help it, if we can be of service to them, if we can work with them, if we can help navigate some different things, we're going to do that for them. So again, very happy to have a very high success rate when it comes to our students making it through our program, if this is where they want to be. Another thing that we offer, actually something that's going on today, is annual scholarships. We have something that's called the Heart of Social Work that happens every year, where we raise money in the community to be able to give back to our students. Again, we understand that finances can sometimes be a barrier for students continuing in our program. So we offer, last year I think it was over $10,000 in scholarships to our students. Again, something that we try and do every year, and then we also connect students to scholarships that are beyond our school. So that's what we're really trying to do, and build it each and every year. It's a program that I believe has been going on less than 10 years, but we're trying to build it each and every year so we can offer those resources to our students. Another thing that we've established within our program is mentoring of current students with students who are a couple of years behind them. Some of our BSW students are actually mentored by our MSW students, so our master's level students. Some of our master's students are actually mentored by people who have graduated and are working in the field. Again, we recognize that it's not just you by yourself, but oftentimes it takes a community for people to be able to be successful in our program. So we really think that that's important to emphasize within our program. I don't know if you all have anything else that you want to add in regards to resources that you've had in our program.
I mean, other resources is obviously the library. It's 24 hours. I know I'm pretty sure at this campus too, but on the JV campus, and you can even do a Skype call. They have the writing help, the writing center help that you can get, because a lot of social work stuff is APA, and that can be very confusing. So they're literally down to help you whenever you need it. The Skype call? Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's online. You don't even have to go in person. That's something that I think is really important, because we do know that we have students that are traveling from long distances. So sometimes coming to the campus isn't, you know, most efficient for them. So they do have that resource available to them. And I think this is a really important question, and something that we've talked about often when it comes to social work. You know, a lot of times people hear social work and they think specifically in child welfare. While that's a wonderful field, it's a field that I work in, you can do so much with a bachelor's in social work or any degree in social work. Because as I mentioned initially, working in social work means you're working with people who might have a challenging situation right now or an ongoing situation that just requires support. So I just listed up here a couple of different things that you could do with a bachelor's in social work. Could help a family who's experiencing homelessness, assist a daughter who is trying to provide for her older mother. You might be working with a mother and her child who need to find a safe place to live. You can help find resources for a father who recently lost his job. You can organize needed items after a place has been impacted by a natural disaster, like a hurricane, like some of us are familiar with here, but we've also seen impacting across our nation. You can work with military veterans when they return from deployment. Again, we have a really strong veteran population both within our university, but specifically within social work, where we have individuals who have enlisted, who have been deployed and come back and realize that they want to give back to people after receiving services from a social worker themselves. You can assist a family where one of the children in the family is identified as having special needs. You can work with doctors and nurses in a medical setting. You can facilitate visits between children and their parents who are incarcerated. As I mentioned before, you can go and advocate for change in healthcare policy. We actually have someone who is a professor here who she's actually been quoted by the New York Times and been on CNN for her advocacy when it comes to healthcare policy, specifically related to leave for families where a child has an ongoing health condition, or just how leave really impacts the ability for people to be more productive at their job. So we have a resident expert here on that, and is the professor that's taking students to Tallahassee next week to have that same sort of advocacy experience. You can provide crisis intervention to individuals who have gone through various forms of trauma. For example, we've had school shootings that have happened. We have individuals who have gone and been there who are social workers, who are actually advocating and working with individuals on a crisis basis. Another thing is just providing education on the different resources that we have in our community and just connecting people with things that they never knew existed in our community. Oftentimes you don't realize you need a social worker until you're in a situation, and you never knew that these different resources were there until it's necessary. So the final thing that I want to talk about is just looking ahead. One of the things about our field is I can tell students that there's always going to be a job. As unfortunate as that is, there's always a need for social workers. Actually, Consumer Reports indicated that they anticipate a 16% growth of the need for social work positions over the next 5 years. I can tell you that's not the same for all professions. There are some professions that they're realizing that they're becoming obsolete. Social work is not one of them. And I can tell you specifically here at FAU, we have a very, very, very high employment rate of our students. I put 99% employment rate up there because the reality is there's probably going to be one person out of many, 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 many cohorts of students that graduate that don't get a job. But at times we've actually been able to record 100% employment rate of our graduates. So our students get jobs. FAU has an amazing reputation in the community when it comes to our School of Social Work. People want to take our interns, and people want to hire them afterwards. I have no doubts that our 2 students that are going into internships in the summer are going to get offered positions before they graduate. I can almost guarantee that, but they're going into the master's program, so they might choose to delay their employment, but that's the reputation that we have in the community. That's the skill set that we give to our students, and our students are amazing. They are amazing. They are so professional in the way that they handle themselves. We have individuals that come back and tell us, I didn't realize that that person was a student because of the way that they were handling themselves just going to a community event or being at an internship. So we really have amazing students, and again, I believe that's a reflection of the support that we give them, but also just that they're amazing as individuals because they choose to get a bachelor's in social work. And then another thing that I think is just helpful to know, couple years of planning in advance, but with a BSW, because we're part of an accredited program through the Council on Social Work Education, when you graduate with a bachelor's in social work, if you do well and are one of kind of our advanced students, you can actually qualify to get your master's degree. So a master's in social work, which allows you to go and do counseling, maybe even open up your own private practice or be an administrator at a social service agency. You can get that in as little as 9 months or 2 semesters after getting your bachelor's degree. For any of you that are familiar with master's programs, most of them take at least 2 years, if not longer, to get that. Because we're an accredited program and our students that excel and do well, getting mostly A's and B's in their social work classes specifically, can potentially qualify to get their master's degree cut in half. Because those courses that I listed for you earlier, the second half of those are the same courses that someone would get a master's in social work in. Now, if someone doesn't get a bachelor's in social work, they have to take those classes to get their master's. But someone who does exceedingly well in our bachelor's program technically already has that skill set coming in. So again, it allows them to get it in as little as 2 semesters. So that is all I have for all of you. I know we've been kind of interactive already and allowed you guys to ask questions, but what other questions do you have for us? What other, things are you wondering about specifically with FAU or social work? Yes,
When
ma'am.
it comes to studying abroad, how does that work with the major?
With the major, are you talking about specifically in social work doing a study abroad for one semester, or well, when you're studying abroad, I'm assuming that you would want to do a study abroad, like a full program, before you come into the Bachelor's of Social Work program. So as Dana mentioned, you would probably do like a full semester before you come into our program. But like I said, we do have a course that is a week-long course. It's a semester in 1 week because it's fully immersed. So you get your 40 hours of contact time with your professor during that 1 week, and that is an opportunity that we have offered a couple of times. Good question, thank you.
Oh, Dr. Thompson, I wanted to mention, for one of the practice classes, you can take it as a hybrid. So you can take it in, I think it's 3 Saturdays. Yeah,
that's something that we offer as well. Again, we understand that a lot of our students might also be coming into our program not as a full-time student. Maybe they have work obligations during the week. Maybe they have family obligations. Our Davie campus primarily caters to students who are working. So that's why a lot of times our classes are offered at 4 o'clock at night, at 7 o'clock at night, because it allows them to work during the day and then come to classes once or twice a week. We also have those week-long classes where you can take 5 days in a row of where you're with a professor from like 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I've done those classes. It's intense, but you learn a lot. I tell students it's kind of like going to a workshop or a conference for 5 days, and you do what's equivalent to a semester in 1 week. As Dana was mentioning, sometimes we have those spaced across different weeks, especially like over the summer, we can offer those even more. So like we have the child welfare elective that's offered across like a Saturday, like a Friday and a Saturday, and then a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday the next week. So we allow students to have different options, because again, we know not everyone is available Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. We try and cater to students who are potentially working or have other obligations during the day.